Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Welcome back to the channel. We are finally back after Christmas break here. I took a little bit of a week off. Didn't do any videos, mostly because I wasn't here to record anything for 4 days, so figured we'd take the week off. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about vocals on the new song that we're still working on. I am hoping this will be done in the middle of January, and I literally mean the middle. I'm shooting for January 15th for this to be finished. It won't come out till a month after that because I want to do a release cycle and everything to try to get the hype built up. So far with this, we've talked about drums, we've talked about the guitars. We're going to talk about the vocal process here just a little bit. I haven't obviously gotten them done yet. This is as much as I've gotten through, and there's still all this. But I got as much down as I could to at least have a decent amount of things to talk about on this video. So let's go into where this comes in on this verse here. Hopefully everything's not too loud. I don't have the master maxed out too much, so it should be okay. All right, let's just hear what we've got going on so far with this verse section. Lost in the neon wilderness, where whispers fade, shadows caress, in the realm where time bends and folds, chains of wires made to take hold. And that's what we've got so far with. I haven't done a lot of mixing so far with this. All I've done really is levels right now, just to make sure everything's kind of sitting where I want it before we start doing other things. So let's also hear these soloed a little bit. Lost in the neon wilderness, where whispers fade, shadows caress. Okay, we're getting a weird artifact there for some reason. Okay, although this line is the one that I'm particularly happy with. Chains of wires made to take hold. Kind of the money shot at the end of the verse there. Okay, so that's what we got going on right now. So anyway, let's talk about what we have going on so far going into this. All right, first up, Shep's Omni channel. This goes on basically anything with the voice, either voiceovers right now or vocals. Of course, if I jump over here, you can see my voiceover track for the video right now. This is on this already, and then it's over here as well. Pretty standard settings, -20 threshold. It's on VCA mode. You could do different things if you want, but this is a default and it's fine. 12 ratio, and attack and release, I kind of left them alone. Limiting at -4 just to make sure nothing gets too out of hand. Preamp I go pretty heavy on. We're at 60 on the even setting. The recent update, they added a new one down here called Crush. I don't need that much saturation on this because this is a pretty loud vocal part on a rock song, so we don't really want to go too heavy-handed on that. We do want a little bit just because the SM7B needs it, because it doesn't have a ton of saturation on it because it's a dynamic. The gate is on at -40 just to make sure we don't get anything weird. De-essers on. I just do the default setting and then set it to -20 threshold. No EQ because I'm not going to use this for EQ. But as is a common trick, we've got 2 compressors going. This one's on -20, and we go to the default Reacomp here, which is built into Reaper already. We've got pretty hard attack and release here. We got a 12-to-1 again, but we're working with -12 on the threshold, and everything else is normal. I did bring the ratio down a little bit because I felt like it was crushing the louder parts of my voice a little too much. I brought that down from 20. The way we do this here, which is pretty standard producer stuff, we've got a softer compressor here with the Shep's Omni channel that just catches like small errant stuff and is really more for bringing up the quiet stuff. And then the Reacomp is here to clamp down really hard on the stuff that's getting too loud. So it's a little bit more reliable for keeping things even. Having 2 compressors makes a more natural sound because we're doing everything digitally here. We do want to hit stuff as hard as we can get away with because digital just does not have the same feeling or the same weight a lot of times as some analog compressors do. So we got to hit it pretty dang hard to get what we're looking for out of this. So that's the basic stuff here. Let's talk about what we'd like to do to bring out some more good qualities here in the vocal. The first thing I like to do here with Reaper, we go to JS and we just go over here to our boy saturation. This is a pretty simple plugin. It's saturation. You turn it up, put more stuff on, turn it down. It does nothing at 0, and then you can go higher on it. 75 is usually a good spot for it. I like to add this just because it gives you a little bit more color on the vocal than you're already getting. So let's hear how it sounds without first. Lost in the neon wilderness. I will probably have to bring down the guitars a little bit more. See about that now, we put it in. Lost in the neon wilderness. So you can hear what that's doing there pretty well. It's giving us just a little bit more. You can hear this easier on the solo, so without. Lost in the neon wilderness. With lost in the neon wilderness. I don't know where that weird noise is coming from. It doesn't do it in the main mix. It only does it when I solo it. That's weird. But now we'll leave it while we're building this. So yeah, you can hear you get a lot out of that guy. It's pretty nice. We might back it off 5%. Other thing with our bedrock here I like to do. Okay, so now we're going to do a delay. Not one that's super long or noticeable, just to give the vocal a little more space. We go JS delay instead of the RIA delay because this is a little bit easier to use. You know, the UI of this is very simple. The RIA delay has a bunch of other stuff on it that can be confusing. This is pretty basic delay stuff here that you can figure out. Now, generally, this will be too much to start with. Lost in the wilderness. We want to have slapback, so we're going to go probably about 250 ms or milliseconds here. Not put a space. Lost in the neon. That might actually be too much. We can go 200. Lost in the neon. Now we go a very slow, a very low one there. I mean, you can play with it. We can go back to 250 and just see how that is. Obviously that's too loud, so we're going to drop the feedback here. Go to 18 to start. Mix in, we'll back up. I usually go about 9 on this. Lost in the neon wilderness. You might want to go a little bit more mix on it. Lost in the neon wilderness. So let's hear it without again. Lost in the neon wilderness. Pretty flat. Turn it on. Lost in the neon wilderness. So see, you can just hear it there coming in. It gives us just a little bit more on that vocal so we can really hear it stand out and make it sound nice. So if you solo it, obviously. Lost in the neon wilderness. This is so dry, but then we do this. Lost in the neon wilderness. So that's pretty good there. Lost in the neon wilderness. So in full mix there, we just want to catch a little bit of it. Just a tiny bit of it, the delay poking out through the guitars. We don't want it to really be noticeable that it's there. We just want that little bit of extra to it. And that's kind of the bedrock thing I do there. If I want a reverb to somewhere else, then I'll do that separately on the take itself instead of doing it through the main track effects. I just like to have this here just to give me a little bit extra. And I tend to prefer delay sounds on vocals, reverbs, unless you're doing something specific with it. But as a general rule, for a really like in your face rock vocal, delay is going to do better for you than a reverb is. Of course, when you get to a big chorus, you can throw the reverbs down and all that because it's, you know, it's a bigger sound, so you get away with more with that. And you want the reverb anyway for that reason of making it bigger. What else would I do on here? Sometimes I will do the doubler just because it can be a little bit different, interesting sound to add on there. Gives you a little bit of chorus effect without, you know, really sounding like a chorus. It's less overwhelming than a chorus, so it can really help a vocal out sometimes. It really depends on the situation though. Most of the time I'm not going to use it because the doubling effect can get weird on a very, you know, upfront vocal like this. So EQ, let's talk about EQ real quick, right? So basic thing is for a vocal like this, we're gonna do a high pass. Obviously frequency, I usually go for, it depends on where I want, pretty standard, I'll do an 80 on a vocal. But if I really want to accentuate the brightness, I'll go to like a 120 or something. And then we can get even really hard on it if we want, just to really cut that off. But don't do a super harsh Q on it. 0.9 is a pretty good spot to go with it. We just want to cut out some of that really strong bass. We want the kick to be hitting here a lot more than the vocals are, obviously. Now, next thing we want here, we go, we'll use this guy for now. Let's go to about 4 here. And then we're gonna just do the low pass. No, not the low pass. We're gonna do the shelf, actually. Gain, just go a little bit, not a ton, just a little bit of air on it. Now, if you want to get rid of some of the nasties here, we can go to about 1K. Really jack this Q up. 4 is probably a good spot, and we just go take that guy out a little bit. Same thing here. Go to 3K and hit it about the same. And just blip. That'll take some of the edge off of the brightness and some of the more distorted parts. Get nasal. With my voice, it's a little bit weird sometimes. Lost in the neon wilderness. Because when I get really bright with the scream, I tend to get a lot of 1200 in mine. So I get a little bit higher than 1K. But 1K is a pretty good standard place to go. And if you want to cut the mids here, we got a lot of them. Lost in the neon wilderness. If you want to do that to help the drums a little bit, because we want the snare to occupy a lot of that space, we can turn that down a little bit too. Lost in the neon wilderness. So that's a pretty general thing you can do there. Let's hear it without though and see if we're doing the right thing here. This is pretty standard moves, so let's solo it first so we can hear it. Lost in the neon wilderness. So there's that. Now we take it on. Lost in the neon wilderness. So we took out a little bit of that low end on it, so it's a lot more focused sound now, which is what we want with the vocals in this situation. And we've taken it's a little bit smoother. Notice we're not as harsh here, obviously. This is maybe not as necessary on this section. This is not where this is going to be important. This is going to be important when we get higher in the chorus at 3K here. My voice gets so many mids though that I might want to turn it down a little bit, actually make it a little wider of a Q. Lost in the neon wilderness. So that's pretty good. Just taking the low end off can help it cut more, even though you're not boosting anything. Just because a lot of the low end gets mixed up together and gets muddy. Take it out of the vocals, then they cut through it better. So pretty simple stuff to hear there. We'll get to these guys later, actually. I want to talk about the chorus section here. Notice I don't have all the doubles yet on the parts that I've already done. A lot of these were comped doubles, which means I did more than one take of the thing. And if I liked a double, or if I liked one well enough, then I would just drop it here and comp it for a double. And these are obviously very broken up because the breaths in, I want to take those out for the most part. You really don't want those. They sound bad. So let's take a look at this in mix first. That's double. So that's as far as I've gotten on this right now. Let's solo it. This is where this stuff gets tough because the chorus is very active with guitars, and I actually turn these up, and I probably should not have done that on the guitars here. I'll probably fix that later, but we'll solo this so you guys can hear a bit of that. Caught inside inside a virtual storm, making us burn that I'm born. There it is. I thought the vocals were pretty decent. So let's hear again how our EQ is working on these guys. Caught inside a virtual storm. Caught inside a virtual storm. There you go. It's pretty subtle there, but it's gonna keep us from getting too overwhelmed. But you can see here why I was talking about moving this some, and I may do a separate track or EQ on the takes here, is by when I get to the screamy bits, it moves over to like 1200. So, you know, be smart about where the EQ is on stuff. You know, if it does move like that when you're on a different part, you can slap another one on the track, on the take itself, and then you're good to go. I think that's most of the chain that I would do pretty on a standard track. Leave that guy. Let's talk about some things here. Let's go to these guys. So there's a pre-chorus section, which is supposed to be very floaty, very kind of giving us a breath before we go into here. And I got this a little bit off kilter just because that accentuates the kind of intervals the guitars are playing in. It makes this section feel kind of uncomfortable, which is a little bit of the point of it. You'll notice here, for interesting things, just to make it a little cool, I have got some pan envelopes on these takes here to move them over. So this guy and its double are both on the right side at 75%. This guy is on the other side at 75%, and that is a lower harmony. Like, this is just fun playing around with stuff to make the mix sound a little bit more interesting. But you can hear how that sounds right now. Did you alright? Virtual time. Might have to turn these guys up. Did you alright? A little bit because the signal's not quite there. But you can see that's a little bit more interesting. This one has not been done yet, so I can show you guys what we're doing here. Go here, and this guy is going to go the opposite way. So we're going to move it like that. Same amount. There it is. Now, reverbing these guys, we're going to do it as a separate FX probably on the take here. So we'll go to that. Let's look at this guy. Not true verb. I don't like that. Go Valhalla here, and I'm going to play around with it because this thing can get pretty aggressive. We're going to go for that. Chamber is going to be nice for this. We can give it a little pre-delay here. About 100 is good. Decay, we're going to drop to 2 and hear how it sounds first. Shelf, this is just to keep stuff from getting out of control. I put the bass at 1x because I don't want it to be any louder. The low cut I bring up a little bit. Again, same reasons. We don't want a bunch of low end. So we'll put it where we have the vocal EQ already. This stuff I turn it off because I don't really want modulation. Late, we kind of want to leave. We might want to turn that down so it doesn't get too overwhelming at the end. We'll keep it high early here. Take it down a little bit so it's not too harsh, because we do want it to build. The size we are going to keep about where it is. The tack time we might increase here just to hear how that goes. That should be pretty good. So let's hear it first. Okay, so that's not great pre-delay there. I mean, if I do this, it'll give me a little bit more. I did not do anything, never mind. Okay, anyway, now we played with that a little bit. It's not quite what we want it to do there. I might be compressing my reverb, unfortunately, so we might have to move that to a different track so we can move where the reverb is going. But anyway, yeah, we're going to go for a more spacey thing here by putting a lot of reverb on these, and then, you know, having them panned out like that will make a really spacey kind of sound, and it should be pretty cool. So verses, we're not going to be doubling these because they typically don't need it, and you usually don't want it. on a verse, but it really depends on the context of what you're doing with a song. I've heard some singers double everything on a song, and I've heard some that don't do that, and they're sparing about where they double, like they won't do it in a verse, but they'll do it in a chorus kind of thing, you know? I'm sort of going off of Outshined and Soundgarden here with how I'm handling the vocals, which hence why we have no double in the verse here. We might make it more forward. We're going to see how we're going to do that. So we can turn these up and make them a little bit louder, relatively speaking, in that sense. These are going to be really spacey and stuff, so we'll do that. So it's kind of emulating that pre-chorus style there, which is why I've got stuff hard panned. I've done it a little bit differently than how they did it on that. Like they just had a single and a double, and then it was hard panned to one side and stayed there. I did it a little bit differently because this would be more fun. Obviously, whole chorus will be doubled with an octave harmony that is also doubled, because that is how Outshine was done. Do I want to do anything else? I don't know. There's a weird high vocal track that is deep buried in the vocal mix on Outshined, and I'm probably not going to do that because these notes are already so high. Like this one here is a C5, which if I want to do the higher thing than that, on Outshine they did like a fourth or something higher. Obviously, if I'm doing that, that's like a F. No thanks. We're not going to be going that far with it, but we are going to have the octave harmony doubled, just like they do there, and then whatever. The rest will basically be mostly the same, but there will be some ad-lib stuff because, you know, you got to have that. I won't sing everything quite the same way on that. Anyway, I think that's enough of messing around with the vocals here today, guys. So like and subscribe if you all enjoyed the video. Leave a comment down below if you'd like. As always, don't forget to click the bell so you know when a new video is out, and keep your eyes peeled for when I tell you guys that the song is finished and when it's coming out. And with that, I will see you guys next time in another video. Have a good one.